Alright there folks, and welcome to another episode in the series in which we highlight and elaborate all the useful and useless information in no one's favourite game, Dauntless. Now I'm not really sure how helpful this series is, but I've had some really good feedback for people who both play the game and have never played the game, so I guess that's a good thing. So I do plan on continuing pushing forwards with this entire series because it really doesn't take too long to make. And as the thumbnail might suggest, today in this episode we're going to look at the Boreal Outpost, which is the second easiest of islands, and the second least interesting, arguably. I'm assuming the game prompts you, but if you don't know, in the Slayer's Path, this is where you can unlock it. Just to the right of the Hunter-Crafter section. So if we go to the Hunting Grounds section and scroll all the way up to the Boreal Outpost, you can see that the Behemoths here are the Lesser Boris and the Lesser Nasher, and the local flora is the Heart Lily, which is common, and Sky Bloom, which is uncommon. So it was once a way station for long-haul cargo ships. This island ran into an ether storm sometime in the last few decades that knocked it into the sky below. By the time it returned to a more temperate Halic riser zone, the power of etheric frost and the behemoth that fed upon it suffused the island and it was abandoned to the hunting grounds. And another thing I should mention is that this island presents the first elemental behemoth of the series, which is the Lesser Boreas. You'll notice next to the Lesser Boreas that there's an icon for it being a frost behemoth. So to overcome a frost behemoth, you'll need frost armour, which can absorb the damage, and you'll need a blaze weapon, which can do extra damage against it. An elemental advantage wouldn't be too much of a difference at the early stages of these islands, but later on, if you're going against behemoths in far higher levels and far higher islands, an elemental advantage makes a huge difference. One more thing I think we should mention before we head out is crafting. Right now, with all we have that we collected from Emberthorn Cove last week, you won't be able to craft any grenades at this stage. We don't have the Gatherables at that island. But right now, if we head over to Granny Strega, you could craft the Bulwark Tonic with Iron Thistle, which was collected from Emberthorn Cove, and Sky Bloom, which can be collected from the Boreal Outpost that we're going to visit today. Not everyone makes the most of consumables and grenades, but I find they sometimes prove useful. So there is a point to collecting Gatherables on this island, and for a lot of quests and rumours you are required to craft potions and grenades, so it's always worth your while collecting Gatherables from all the Hunting Ground islands. Now I think with that all said and done, I think it's time to head off to the Boreal Outpost. Now here we are, in the second island of the series, and the first elemental island of the series, and the element of course is frost, which you probably guessed by now. And here is the Boreal Outpost, which is another very small and quite uninteresting island, being that it's mainly for beginners of level 1 to 3. So as I already stated, there is only two behemoths on this island, the Lesser Nasher and the Lesser Boreas, which spawn from 3 different locations, the Boreas being a bit more common than the Lesser Nasher. There are no island events. We'll explore island events in a later video in the series, I think. And there's only the 2 consumables, which we'll find scattered all over the island, along with some chests and 1 lore location. And as you can see, just what is just swooped down here, we've got the same fauna which you got in Emberthorn Cove, which are the Stalkers. And as I stated before, Stalkers aren't much of a threat, they're not very intimidating, they don't do a lot of damage, but they can be a little bit annoying when you're wandering on the outskirts of the map, but easily dealt with, as you can see. I think it's worth mentioning, if you go to the roadmap on the Dauntless page, the developers are really good at stating what they plan to do and what they already have, and things they're working on for the game. I think they convey it very well in comparison to other developers. And if you go to Elite Fauna, you can see that they have planned more fauna for the game. They say, we're making more fauna and we are currently in the brainstorming phase and compiling a ton of feedback around our current smaller creatures. The goal here is to populate our environments with a diverse set of vicious wildlife. It's one more step towards making the Shattered Isles feel more alive than ever before. Whatever form they take, we want their design to communicate their difficulty and elements to players immediately. We also want them to be fun and easy to hit. That is another really good addition to the game that I'm looking forward to. And as you can see here, just next to where that fauna was, we can see the first gatherable of the island, which is the heart lily, which is fairly common in the lower islands, such as the Boreal Outpost. Just over this hill here, back to the start, you can see the first spawn point where a lesser Nasher spawned. And I'm just going to show off this behemoth because I didn't really show off too much in the first island last week. The lesser Nasher's not too much of a threat, but I do recommend going for his tail if you want to take away any advantage he's going to have, because his tail can be hard to dodge and does the most damage. So once you get rid of that, as you can see, not much of a threat anymore. Now heading up to the north of the island, you'll see we've got a few more Gatherables here, which are the Sky Bloom again. And over here, you have the very first chest of the island, which can be unlocked with patrol keys, which grant you exploration merits, rams, and ether sparks, things like that. And after we collect the Sky Bloom, which is the second gatherable on island, that'll lead us up perfectly to what is the only lore location of the island, which is probably, in my opinion, the least interesting. But anyway, I think it's a throwback to the Christmas event, which granted a PvP mode of a snowball fight. So that snow battlefield, nothing improves the hand-eye coordination of aspiring young slayers like the traditional snowball fight. Maybe not every battleground is worth spending blood or treasure, but that doesn't mean the fight's not worth having. As I said, definitely not the most exciting of lore locations, but it's a cool throwback to what was the Christmas event, when the developers added a PvP snowball fight, which I didn't really play too much, but still, it was a really nice addition. The developers are really good with their Christmas and Halloween type events. I've really enjoyed everything they've added so far. What I'll do now though is I'll take my character all the way back to the start where you first spawn in on this island, and I'll show you exactly how to get to this lore location. And it really is as easy as that. So let's push on. And down the side of the island you'll sometimes find these little hidden platforms, and that's quite often where you're going to find some of these hidden chests. So it's always worth your time just peeking over the side to see if anything's there. Anyway, pushing on to the second spawn point, and the second and most common behemoth on this island, and that's a Lesser Boreas. The Lesser Boreas again isn't too challenging, but it can spawn in minions, which can be a little bit irritating, and it also can develop an ice shield, which can take quite a little bit of time to break down, giving the behemoth a lot longer to stay alive and cause more damage. Yeah, these guys must just love that I'm standing here doing absolutely nothing, but I'm sure they can manage without me. When it comes to fighting the Boreas, Lesser Boreas, all the other types, I guess they would say taking out the minions would be handy, because at the later stages they can prove to be a challenge when you're absolutely swarmed with all different types of minions. Fighting the actual Boreas itself can prove challenging. It's not something I do, but I would definitely recommend taking out the minions first and then going for the Boreas itself. So heading off to the east of the island now, you can see we have another form of fauna, the second fauna of this series, and that is the Grunk Rock, the dreaded Grunk Rock. These guys have become somewhat of a meme in the Dauntless community for the fact that they can just sneak up on you and tend to do quite a lot of damage, but in that case, that particular Grunk Rock didn't prove to be too much of a challenge. As you can see here, the Grunk Rocks are aggressive, but they're defending what they think is their territory. They just don't know it's behemoth territory. They attack you by throwing themselves at you, but they usually jump off the island in the process. Run, they are more dangerous than you think. Habitat are usually found in small forest parts on Escalation Islands, but as you can see they're also in the Hunting Ground Islands, and the first of which that we've found is on the Boreal Outpost. You can see that there's a few more Gatherables here, nothing too exciting, just in the form of more Skybloom. And just over this hill here you can see the third spawn point, which has another Lesser Boreas, which as I stated was the most common behemoth on this island. And now that we've found the lore location, and we've found the 3 spawn points for all the behemoths on this island, the only thing really left to do is gather the last of the Gatherables and find the last of the hidden chests. As I said, I don't really know how many chests are hidden on this island, but there's got to be... oh, there's one right there. There's got to be at least 4, maybe 5 on this island. Again, some more Ether Sparks, exploration merits, and some rams. This island definitely isn't one of the more exciting ones. Once we get to the latter islands on the hunting grounds, we'll find that there's a lot more to explore, a lot more exotic biomes, and a lot more interesting behemoths to find. Despite the fact that some of it might just be stating the obvious, I do hope that these videos are useful to at least someone, in the form of any information or just the locations of where the lore are on the hunting grounds. What I will say is that I know that these earlier islands aren't too exciting, but I am really enjoying making this little series, and I do plan on completing an evaluation of every single island in the hunting grounds. If you have any feedback, any information that you think might be helpful, please feel free to leave it in the comments section below. Next week we'll be looking at the Restless Sands, the desert island, and I'm looking forward to it. So until then, see ya.